I am on the second video now, and I am working on, well, the first part is done, addressing um, more experienced teachers, which I think in my school in particular is going to be the biggest issue. Addressing new teachers, getting them to gear tech towards learning, making sure students are on task, as well as substitute teachers will be shorter, simpler parts in my school in particular. So, new teachers proficient in technology but need to gear tech use towards student learning. Primary concern. The new teachers are more efficient in technology, and they personally know how to use it for learning. The issue is they need to learn how to get their students for learning. There are two main areas to focus on. First, ensuring the new teachers are using technology for student learning. And second, training new teachers how to handle situations when students get off task. First, as with the more experienced teachers, it is important for newer teachers to learn how to use technology integration appropriately. This right here, recommending having teachers observe teachers use technology so they can see what it looks like, but for different reasons. I would recommend having newer teachers observe other teachers who use technology integration in the classroom so they can see what the classroom should look like with technology integration. These teachers know, or the new teachers know what they would do as a student in an environment like this, but they need the exposure to see what the teacher him or herself is doing in a classroom with technology integration. Second, there is the issue since budget is a concern, having students use mobile devices such as cell phones, tablets, laptops, etc. of their own is the most likely route we will pursue. Technology integration. It is vital to train these teachers how to handle situations where students are off task with their devices. it is essentially inevitable that some students will get off task with their own mobile device. Students will be texting, using online tools such as Twitter or Facebook, and other non-educational tools. The new teachers seem to do one of two things. One, they come down too aggressively and confiscate the device, which means the student can no longer use it for learning. Two, they do not enforce the rules well enough, and students end up getting away with what they want, regardless of the teacher. The best method we can do to counter these situations is to train new teachers how best to redirect students and get them back on task. Second, when all else fails, we will need to have firm but fair school policies in place when it comes to disciplinary actions with misuse of technology. We can also supplement teachers with a handful of electronic devices for classroom use. For students who do not have their own, but also for students who cannot use their own appropriately and with our pieces of technology and with our technology tools, we can put blocks on that will flat out prevent students from misuse. So the strategy for the teachers who just quite aren't using it appropriately is to have them. My paper is very long. Is to have them have the teachers learn how to use redirection, also to have them be backed up by school policy, and have an ultimate plan B where we have a handful of tools ourselves that the students would be forced to use instead. So I think we're going to do is this. For all teachers. So I'm repeating almost what I'm saying. So we'll put this whole mobile device issue here, and then we'll put oh no. The more experienced teachers know how to handle this already. I'm trying to shorten this by combining some things that I'm repeating. At 307 over 600. I'm gonna pause this for a minute while I figure out what the. Okay, I think I figured out what I'm going to do. I'm gonna open up with this. Now, getting the idea that across that some teachers think they're doing technology integration, but they're not. Then, I'm going to say experienced teachers, we want them to start small. Yeah. The big thing for them is they need to start small. Everyone should be observing teachers who know how to do technology integration. Since budget is a concern, having students whoops. Okay. Now what we want this here, and along with showing your teachers what good technology integration looks like, it should be noted that students are going to be texting and getting off task, so on and so forth. So the best thing we can do is train the teachers how to do redirection properly, get students back on task. If that fails, we need firm school policies in place. This here is our sort of ace in the hole method. We'll supplement each teacher with a handful of electronic devices, 5 or 6, because there are going to be some students who don't have their own, and we'll need to provide them. We can also use this as a way to put blocks on them, so Twitter's blocked, Facebook's blocked, Instagram's blocked, whatever we want blocked. They obviously can't text because it's not their own device. They use these instead. That's very limited how much they can or cannot get off task. So here's what I have so far. I'm getting pretty close to my cap. That's alright. So idea, again, from the top, for all teachers, it is important to point out that just because you use a smartboard or Elmo, that's not tech integration. Second, all teachers should be observing other teachers who know how to do this, so that way they can see exactly what it looks like. Third, budget's going to be an issue. We can use the idea of the students have a lot of their own devices already. For the experienced teachers, what we really got to hit on is start small. They should not be expected to do a complete 180-degree turn. And what they've been doing for the past 20 years, it's going to take time. Show them that simple steps early. If they take simple steps early and they're successful with it, it's a good motivator and it'll help take away the anxiety. For new teachers, the biggest issue we're going to have, on top of, 1, it's important for them to see what it looks like, but 2, how to handle situations where students are off task. The idea is we gotta teach them through professional development proper ways to do redirection, and if that fails, we need firm school policies, and then we need a backup plan, because we can't just take the device away and that student doesn't learn. So we have a few devices for classroom use only, and one of the students who's constantly off task will be forced to use one of those. So let's take on this idea of let's take this here, kind of hit for everyone. Why are we doing this? Students today have a different preference on how information is presented. This hits on mostly on the more experienced teacher that, look, your old methods were great in the 90s and 2000s, but it's a new world today. Also, reports show that it improves student engagement. So we can kind of take, basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the good things, the real good things out of this, and cutting away some of the redundancy. And now all I gotta do is I gotta wrap up substitute teachers. My word count so far is 479. I think I'm gonna go a little bit over. I'm not sure there's a whole much I can do about that. Substitute teachers, what do we need to do for them? Substitute teachers should be provided with an outline of our school policies, or outline of how our classrooms work with technology integration. They should be able to set up students, or they should be able to get students started for the day. The wonderful benefit of technology integration is that when students would traditionally have a movie day or busy work when the teacher was out, they can have information, they can have material and objectives ready for students to view online even when the teacher is absent. Therefore, the substitute's main job will be getting students started and making sure they stay on task. Therefore, what we are doing with our substitute teachers, I'm at 567, but it is what it is. Our substitute teachers are there to make sure the students stay on task. And actually, it falls on the teacher's job to make sure that something's ready for the students. They're absent, but they can still get something online for the students to view and work on. So the sub's job is to get the students started for the day and make sure they stay on task. And that will be kind of our use for substitute teachers. And so on and so forth. Let's see if I can fit this all in one. Works. Cited. And there we go. There it is. Okay. I think I'm pretty satisfied. Once again, it is important to note that some teachers who are using technology may not understand, although what we're doing is great. It is not technology integration if only the teacher is using the technology. Simple examples of this may include how our teachers use smartboards or Almos. They're wonderful tools, but only teachers using them, therefore it's not technology integration. It's important for all teachers to learn how to use the technology integration appropriately. I would recommend having teachers observe other teachers who use tech integration in the classroom so they can see what the classroom should look like with tech integration. New teachers know what they should do as a student in the environment like this, but they need to they need the exposure. This is just in general for all of them, so I'm going to cut that out. Since budget is concerned, having students use mobile devices such as cell phones, tablets, laptops, etc. of their own is most likely a route we're pursuing technology integration. Why are we doing all this? Students have different preferences for how information is presented in reference to the old method of learning new things from old things. New national trend report from the State Education Technology Directions Association has shown that tech integration is improving student engagement and powers individualized instruction. Specifically for the more experienced teachers, most importantly in my opinion is they need to start small. They should not be expected to do a complete 180 on their entire teaching methods that they've been doing for 20 plus years in the course of one school year. This should be a slow process that they can ease into. It is important to provide them with simple steps early so they're successful early on, which will be a good motivator and help take away their anxiety. For new teachers, along with showing newer teachers what good technology integration looks like, it should be noted that students will be texting using online tools such as Twitter and Facebook and other non-educational tools. The best method we can do to counter these situations is to train teachers how best to redirect students and get them back on task. Second, when all else fails, we will need to have firm but fair school policies in place when it comes to disciplinary actions with misuse of technology. We can also supplement teachers with a handful of electronic devices for classroom use for students who do not have their own, but also for students who cannot use their own appropriately. And with our technology tools, we can put blocks that will flat out prevent students from misuse. Substitute teachers should be provided with an outline of how our classrooms work with technology integration. They should be able to get students started for the day. The wonderful benefit of technology integration is that when students would traditionally have a movie day or busy work, when the teacher was out, they can have material and objectives ready for the students to view online, even when the teacher is absent. Therefore, Substitute's main job will be getting students started and making sure they stay on task. And there it is. The works cited. How did I do? 32 over. Good enough. I will save. I'll come back about an hour or two and reread this, do any modifications, but for the meantime, I'm going to call it on the video. And with that, I don't think I'm going to record my editing. It's just me skimming through really quick, then I will do the upload. Alrighty, I am out of here.